Hey y'all, the Tessas are back. And today we are going to do some timeline discussion. So, of course, you have Fuck Tessa and Blunt Tessa here in the building. You guys want to say hi?
Hello, y'all.
Hey, I guess technically, even though I'm fuck Tessa, I'm also Nunya. So, those two can be connected now.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We used a voice changer last time, so people didn't realize that Fuck Tessa and Nenya were
None
one.
of your fucking business.
That's funny. So we're going to start with May 23rd. As everybody knows, May 23rd, 2022 is the day that unfortunately the story begins for Marvon McRae. And May 23rd, 2022, let me be clear so nobody gets that confused. Um, Unfortunately, as everybody is aware, on that date, there was a very tragic incident. Marvon is still at this point in time in a coma. Do you guys want to add anything to that piece of it?
Not to that date, no.
Okay. So that's basically it. I mean, we've seen the police reports after and everybody's got their own opinions and stuff like that, but that was the most important thing on that date. And then he was transferred from Yuma to Tucson at that time. And this is where the story goes from here. So should we go into the first time when Dre brings it to social media? Because that's when the big start is, when people start realizing.
So she takes it to her supporters on May 28th, is where it hits privately through the supporters group.
Correct. But she deleted that video afterwards, correct?
Correct.
But her supporters were well aware of what was going on back on May 28th.
Right. And I don't think that the next big date happens until the day of the Katie Farms post, which
Correct.
I believe was June 8th.
Yes, it was.
Which essentially I'll talk about that. So she posts that she's trying to get the vegan feed for him. At that point in time, she did post it publicly to try and get as many eyeballs and assistance on how to get that feed for him at that point in time. And because it was posted publicly, people started to ask a lot of questions. They were not aware of his condition because it wasn't made public at that time. And so I think she posted it in the morning time once she had everything settled. I believe she did a live later on that night just discussing that there was an incident and that he was flown to he was I believe he was life flighted to Tucson. Now, can we just clear up? I know that there's been a lot of, she got kicked out of the Yuma hospital, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is he flew from Yuma to Tucson because he needed to be in the VA hospital.
Actually, Yuma Hospital wouldn't have the facility to take care of his situation. So they needed to fly him out to a specialist. And there may have been a stop in Phoenix before Tucson because they have a neuro specialty center there. And then sent on to Tucson. Now this is actually in the police report stating that he was transferred from Yuma to Phoenix to Tucson. So
in
my guess is that they needed a specialty care in neuro.
and that is right. It is in the police report that it does say that he was flown from Yuma to Phoenix and then from Phoenix to Tucson to the VA.
And Dre would not have any control over that. No one did other than the doctors.
How would she ever have gotten kicked out? I mean, they weren't there long enough, and this is a trauma situation, so they were making decisions based on what was best for Marvon, not anybody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then he was transferred to Tucson, and June 8th, as we all know, she made the post asking for vegan feed. Then she came on social media and explained that there was an incident. Now, she didn't go into detail of what caused him to be in a coma at that point in time on social media, but she gave an overview and asked for positive thoughts and prayers for their family.
I think the other thing she basically showed is, in her faith, She showed that she was believing for a miracle, and that, she felt she had confirmation from God that there would be a miracle in his healing. So that she started to show that, you know, doctors don't have control over what happens. Jehovah, God does. And so that's when she started to speak those things and wanted people to speak that same type of positive vibe and manifestation, because that was part of her belief system.
Yeah. She was basically getting at they don't have the final word ultimately,
Right.
which that brings us to she posted a few I think on her business page, not her business page, on her public Facebook page where she does her makeup, her Slay with Joy McRae page, she posted some reels and kind of gave people updates. And then on June 11th, there was another post that happened.
The shitstorm started, let's be honest. That's
Yep.
that's when everything really blew up. So June 11th, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it was a Saturday. That morning, you can see in Leticia's original post, that morning she gets a call from her cousin, because the videos, which were also being posted on TikTok as well as Facebook, um, and I don't think they were on Instagram, but they could have been, so don't quote me. They were kind of across all of social media for everybody to know of. But that TikTok ends up ending up on one of his cousins' feeds. It gets shared, the call gets made to Leticia, who is his biological mother. Um, and she then finds out that he is currently in a coma.
Yes, on June 11th. And then she, from what we've heard on social media, Leticia actually reached out and contacted Wynette and Marvon Sr. That's what they've been, that's what we've been told
Yes.
by
I
Wynette.
also know, we know, both from the call that was played as well as the information that's been shared on live, on both Leticia speaking and Dre speaking, that there was a phone call that happened that day. It was a cordial and understanding phone call where there were some questions about how did this happen, which, it's been stated Dre was not willing to explain that. However, she was willing to allow them to come and visit at that point in time, which that was around the afternoon, early morning or afternoon time of the 11th. So that was still, they were still good at that point. And then I believe the evening of the 11th, on the 11th, Leticia made a post on her Facebook. And in that post, you start to see some of the family members making some accusations, calling her some names, all these kinds of things. Later on that night, somebody, I don't know if it appeared in the live where it spoke about that those screenshots or that link or whatever was shared with Dre, and there was just a lot of negativity that came from that, of just when the text messages were read and the feed was read and the comments were read, it was because there were a lot of accusations. She started to feel like, and I'm just interpreting the video, you can watch it for yourself, but she started to feel like there was about to be a lot of drama coming from this, and she didn't want that in the room with him. She was very clear prior to these dates that his condition was not, he had tested positive for COVID. He had had C. diff, which I do not know much about, but I have heard that it's very contagious. So there were a lot of different conditions that he was dealing with, to where she was the only person visiting him outside of the doctoral staff, doctors, nurses, whoever else, therapists, whatever.
Right.
So nobody was coming in, not just his family, not just, not the kids, not her mom, like nobody was coming in except for her, because of the sensitivity. And although she was willing to work with them, she wanted, and again, she had stated on live numerous times prior to this date when she would give her updates, that even when the doctors came in to speak what she felt was, negativity, she would ask them, could we leave the room and have that conversation outside of the room, because she didn't want that in the room with him.
Right.
So it makes it like, it aligns with when now you see, okay, look at all this drama starting to pop up. It was like, okay, I don't really want the drama in there and going through this. Hey, let's fall back a little bit. Let's let him heal a little bit more, and then we'll revisit the visitation.
And at the same time, on the 11th, though, too, there was also stuff popping off on Reddit.
I thought Reddit didn't start till June 12th. So although the post was already there,
Oh,
I
that's right.
thought that the brother
It
didn't
was the
hit
12th.
Reddit until the 12th.
It was the 12th. Sorry, you're right. I think it was late night, the 11th. There's a lot of really late evening stuff that on my end, because of the time difference too, there's been some confusion there. But no, you were right. It is the 12th. So the 12th pops off on Reddit though too. So you have family on a post on the 11th and then Reddit on the 12th.
Yep.
Right.
And on the 12th, that the original post was, I think it was like maybe 3 to 6 months old already. So you have to have searched her name to be able to find that post itself. And that is where the brother ended up going and basically just spewing it all out there. You know, my brother is hurt. You know, his wife is refusing to let us see him. She's hiding something. We know that she's done something. Like, it was just spewed from there.
If you want to see that entire post, it's actually 3 parts because it's such a lengthy, it's over 240 screenshots, but it is on my Facebook page. So if you do want to see it in its entirety, what's left of the comments are there. So
I'm curious about the Reddit post. Was this done under what subreddit was this done under? Was it already a negative post towards Dre? Was it already kind of?
It already was. It was. I believe the actual title, and I can find it for sure. But I believe the actual title is like, "What's going on with Dre McCray with her weight loss?" And
Okay, so
everybody who was already previously in the comments was like, "I think it's this. I think it's that." You know, and it's all kinds of different things. You know, drug use, starvation, eating disorders. Like, it's all kinds of different things of what people's opinions were at that point in time. And they just followed up with it on that thread from there.
Okay.
I'm looking for it right now so I can tell you the title of it. But that did pop off a lot because comments, and that's how also how people connected for the first time. So that's where the future, which they didn't create it at that point in time, but the Reddit thread is how the admins of the Facebook group actually connected at first. Okay, that was my cat.
2 of them.
Yes. Yep.
So the original creator, and which is Tracy, and Gigi, they ended up meeting in the comments of that Reddit thread. They do not, my understanding though is they do not catch it on the 12th. They don't catch wind of it until like the 20th.
Right. Yep. And the group didn't come until after that. But
yeah,
that thread was ongoing. So it had been started before the 12th. The 12th is when family started making comments on it. And then it just kind of snowballed from there and continued.
That to me sounds very targeted and manipulative. To post something on a social media site that is already targeted towards hate of a person, and to spew or inform or however you want to put it, but to lay that out publicly on that platform just seems very manipulative to me. They wanted a certain targeted audience to look at that.
So the actual title of it is, has anyone noticed how Slay with Dre McCray is starting to look really sickly with this weight loss thing she is doing? She used to me so gorgeous, which was be so gorgeous, and looked so healthy before. It honestly makes me sad and worried for her. So at the time that I took this screenshot, the post was 99 days old, which I took these screenshots September 17th.
So let's just call it September 18th is 100 days. And today is what, the 30th? So 12 more days. So 112 days.
Yeah, so we're looking about 4 months
So it
old.
was about, I mean, if you look at it, it was about 4 to 5 months oldish, I think. Maybe my math, hold on, 4 times 30. Oh, no, that's 120. So it was probably, it was probably like maybe a month old before they jumped on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's still up to last time I checked, the Reddit thread is still there. Some comments have been removed.
Yeah.
And there is a few other like subreddits off of it, which you can go search. But again, if you don't want to go on Reddit or don't have Reddit, all of the screenshots are there. There's 3 parts because it's lengthy, but that post itself really says how the family was feeling at the time, like how confused and stuff that they were feeling at the time. But then things kind of shifted in that post too. And then we see a post on Leticia's private page again, the 12th, 13th is the money, right?
That's what I was just confirming before I started talking about it. Yes. So she gets upset that
Sorry.
Dre is saying that nobody is helping from Vaughn's side, except for this one person who is an I believe an ex-soldier with him. And that person had sent some money. So she posted thanking them. And this was one of few people on his side that was helping. And so apparently that's triggering for Leticia because she feels like you're not even giving us a chance to help. um with zero, at that point, with zero accountability. I think emotions were very high on all sides. You know, and the
Yeah.
entitlement was even higher in my opinion. So I think that there just was a lot that was going on with it, but that's when the money talk actually starts happening, because Leticia is mad that Dre is getting money for Vaughn. However, when Dre did the live on June 8th, she states the cost of the feed. She states that her family has had to leave Yuma to stay in Arizona. So her 3 kids, her 5 dogs, they're all staying in the RV trailer that they had. And so it would make sense to most logical people that there is some displacement happening, and there may be some additional costs that may incur from this. And her supporters started to send money to her to assist her in paying for the feed, because at that point in time the hospital was not going to pay for it at that point. And she does state that on the June 8th live. So she does go over that story with that. So anyways, so June 13th, the money post starts to come in. I don't think that we really seen anything significant. Correct me if I'm wrong. Other than every day you got an update at that point in time. I think there was daily updates every night, that people would get, or daily posts that they were getting for what his status was. If there were any milestones, like him coming off of the ventilator, that was celebrated by a post. And she started to speak on that. So people were following along and getting daily updates, if not at the very most, an every other day update at that point in time on his condition. So people felt very connected to what was going on at that point still.
Yeah, she was letting, and she was doing this not only in her supporters but on her public pages. Like she was posting reels and TikTok videos and stuff, keeping people in the loop. We also saw during that time the great grandmother of Marvon posted in TikTok videos. And that was kind of the first introduction of that too. I'm not exactly sure the date because it has been removed since that was posted, but that was another one that was posted in that time frame.
I believe that was on the 10th.
Okay, so right in there, yeah, which would make sense.
So it's not made aware at that point in time, though, that Leticia is, although she was the person who gave birth to Vaughn. She gave birth to him at a very young age. She had 2 children, so she had a daughter and Vaughn when she got into some legal troubles. Her grandmother, which is actually Vaughn's great grandmother, and grandfather, they decided to allow them to take the 2 children when she was able to return home and her legal troubles were completed. It does appear that Vaughn was left there with him. It has been stated on numerous different ways that it was that he loved his grandfather so much. He was very connected to him. He wanted to stay with them. Um, on the actual fact remains he did stay there during that time, while Leticia did take the daughter home with her and had some additional children later on that she did raise at that point. So and there are plenty of videos out there in Vaughn's own words where he describes what that, how that may have made him feel, what type of issues he may have had with that, how much he loved his great grandparents, and they were his parents through and through. What the loss of his great grandfather, which he calls his father, what that did to him and how that affected him as a man. You can find those videos out there. Shout out to the Missing Puzzle Pieces because they've got everything and it's in his own words. So you don't have to listen to what somebody else speculates about it. You can hear him talking about it. So I just wanted to give a little bit of backstory as to why there were 2 people that were significant around that time, because you have his great grandmother who is on the phone with him prior to his biological mother finding out, but that is because she did adopt him, and he spoke of her as his mother. That is who he acknowledged as his mother at that point in time. And there was, well, anyways, go ahead. What's the next date? Is the father coming, right? Other than just regular updates. I don't know if there's anything.
And that's what I was just looking for. I was trying to find the exact date that Dre did the live addressing.
That wasn't until June 28th. There's more stuff
Okay.
that happens before then.
Okay, that's what I was trying to. Some of it goes woo at the time, but no, I don't think there's a whole lot significant until and social media didn't learn about the dad traveling to Arizona until Dre posted her video.
Yes.
So Dre comes live and she's live at the hospital seeing Marvon like she had been doing.
She's in her supporters group. So she wasn't public, but she was in her supporters group.
Yep. So it was still private at the time. Like she was being very private about everything. But Marvon Sr. shows up at the hospital at this time. And as you've seen, we've all seen, she is genuinely confused. And you can tell that she isn't sure exactly who it is. I mean, I've watched the video extensively. You can have your own opinions, but she 100% was confused on who it was.
And she, asked for security to remove them, said that they shouldn't be able to see them. And the administrator that she was speaking with at the time started to tell her that Arizona law says anybody can visit. And she does state, even in that video, you hear her say, so a stranger could just come in and see him. And they say, yes, a stranger could. And so at that point in time, it is now made public. The visitation is not actually restricted by the hospital.
Tessa, do you want to explain that a little bit, if you could, like just so people that haven't caught the previous videos understand why they were allowing visitors, like what they said and why that is, if you could, just a brief one.
There is a federal mandate that I believe it was in 2010 was put in place that basically says that hospitals cannot stop a visitor from going in and visiting a patient. This is unless they're a danger to like safety or health hazard to the patient. And in that case, it would have to be like a court order saying that the person cannot come and visit. But for the most part, any hospital, any medical facility, long-term care facility that accepts Medi-Cal, Medicaid, whatever federal funding your state has, cannot turn away a visitor. And this is just to protect families that have disputes and whatnot, and protect the patient's rights and all of that. I've researched and researched POAs, and I cannot find anything that would give Dre or anyone else with a POA the ability to say, no, you cannot come and visit. So that's, I mean, in a nutshell, and you can go and research that law for yourself. There's a ton of information, and just look it up for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Look it up for yourself.
And she did explain it more in depth too on our last video. She does explain more of that, but I just wanted to give a brief overview. So in essence, we see a video of Dre saying, you know, can we get security? She was caught off guard. That's very evident. And again, you can watch it. These are videos she took and posted. So we see this happen, but then we find out that Marvon Sr. was allowed to see him. But do we learn that right then and there?
No.
No, we don't.
The current narrative is nobody can see him. She's restricting everyone.
Right. So we see him being what we think is turned away from her video because she's asking to speak to security. And again, this was done in her supporters. So it's not public at the time, but it was quickly made public, unfortunately. But it was
Snippets were made public.
Yeah, true.
Right.
Very chosen snippets. So we're left to assume that Marvon Sr. has been denied seeing Marvon at this point in time.
Yep. And we do later on confirm that he was there from, what are the dates?
They left Georgia the 18th of June, according to what Wynette said. And they returned to Georgia around the 26th of June.
Okay. We also know that while they were there, a couple of things got taken care of. So we know that they spoke with the Tucson Police Department. They shared that.
Yes.
We know that a family member helped them fund their trip via text messages, and that family member was willing to help fund a trip for Leticia to also get there. We know that part of their savings was used up to supplement what wasn't covered for them to get there. We know that they stayed at Fisher House while they were there, which is, does anybody know, like, I know that there's no fee to stay there, but what is it exactly?
The Fisher House is like a Ronald McDonald House, but for the VA. So there's Fisher Houses in multiple places that have VAs. It's basically their patient and visitor, family and friends of loved ones that are in the hospital or having testing or surgery or whatever. It's where they can stay longer term with a loved one in the VA. It's a nonprofit part of the whole thing. It's just basically like Ronald McDonald for children, but this is for VA and their family.
Okay. We also know that during that time that Marvon Sr. is calling Leticia each day, giving her updates and sharing at that point in time, sharing what he's seeing, what he's learning. We know that the doctors will not provide a diagnosis, a care plan, or any medical information on him. So we know that it is strictly visitation with him. We know that once he talks to the Tucson PD, then he does, they tell him to speak with the Yuma PD. And I believe that takes us up through the 23rd of June, if I'm not missing anything else.
Nope. I think that's what I have too.
And we also know that once they returned to Georgia, that they did receive, Wynette received a text message from Dre apologizing for her reaction at the hospital, explaining that she did think that she was Leticia and felt unsafe, and that text message was never responded to at that point in time.
Right. And just if anybody is new, which I don't really think most people come into this brand new, but if you are, just for clarification purposes, Wynette is married to Marvon Sr., who is the biological father of Marvon McRae. Yes, again, he was put up for adoption. Leticia Bias and Andre Bias are his biological mother and stepfather, just in case people start getting confused on names.
Oh, one last thing, because I seen it in a live this week. Leticia and Marvon Sr. were never married.
Oh, Correct. They were
They were in a relationship, but they were never married. So their spouses are their spouses. Currently, they are not spouses.
and they were young. Let's remember it, like, just so people understand too, like that's been talked about extensively, but they were very young. So people need to kind of understand some of this because they're like, wait, but they were both young and went on their ways. So, anyways,
Before we move forward,
yeah,
okay, so can we establish the date that Leticia found out that Vaughn was in the hospital?
June 11th.
yeah.
And Marvon and Wynette have gone to visit, and it's now the date
They
that
returned
they
home.
left.
Oh, what day did they leave to from Georgia?
Or what date did they return home?
Oh,
The 26th is when they returned. What, according to what Wynette said on live streams that she participated in, they returned home around the 26th of June.
Okay, so this has been a couple of weeks of everyone having knowledge of what is happening. And Wynette and Marvon Sr. are the only ones who have made an effort to go visit.
correct.
Correct?
And also, yes, I think another fact to be pointed out is Marvon Sr. does have some legal situations. However, despite those legal situations, within 1 week of finding out, so he found out on the 11th. And what day did you say they left?
I actually think Wynette said that they found out the 12th or the 13th. So, because they found out from Leticia. So they found out a day or two after. So let's say that they found out the 12th, just for all intensive purposes. So they found out the 12th and they were on their way to Georgia on Father's Day, the 18th.
Okay. So
Father's
within
Day.
6 days, he had already gotten his permissions that he would need for his legal situation, as well as they were on the road, money collected, and they were on their way to see him.
Yeah. And absolutely, not to definitely do not discredit, like, what he had to get in place was
Yeah.
not something that is an easy feat in general, let alone in that short of time. So that is definitely something that needs to be acknowledged.
I give mad respect to Marvon Sr. and Wynette for taking the initiative
100%.
and following through.
I do too. I
Yeah.
100% do, especially in this situation. 100%. He didn't wait for nothing. They got it all set up. And he actually, moving on in the timeline of things, he actually does offer help and advice for Leticia to be able to go there too. So, but we'll get into all that. So we're at the 24th now, right?
The 23rd.
Oh, we're at the 23rd. That's right. Okay.
So
Well,
on the 23rd, the Facebook group, it starts off with exposing Dre McCray. So that is the name of the Facebook group that starts. The original ones were Tracy, Gigi, and
Tony and
Tony,
Britt.
and Brittany Johnson, not to be confused with Brittany Munoz, the I don't like to call her a fake lawyer because I know that's what everybody calls her, but not the ex-admin. Let's say that. There we go. So not to be confused with Brittany Munoz, Brittany Johnson. Now we have been able to establish since then that Tony and Brittany Johnson were childhood friends. So that was their connection with each other into this group. And Gigi and Tracy met in the Reddit threads. I
Correct.
want to say Tony came from the Reddit threads as well.
I think all of them ended up on the Reddit threads, but I'm not sure at what
At one
point in
point or
time.
another.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's a lot of them that were over on those Reddit threads and introduced, they found that they all had common interests at the time, if
Yes.
that makes sense.
Okay.
But yeah. So late night, the 23rd, and the 24th is when things start to really change again.
Yeah. So Justice for Vaughn starts. They, I believe Tracy reaches out to Leticia. I believe Eve, who ended up later on being a moderator for their group, but she was, and originally she was an admin for the Ultimate Deception page. And when Ultimate Deception page as well as Expose started to report on it, as an admin for the Ultimate Deception page, which Eve was her alt. Her real name was Steph Baker. She was a former, well, is currently a paparazzi rep who had major competition with Dre and had issues with the fact that Dre's following supported her in paparazzi. So she ended up as an admin of the Ultimate Deception page, hearing a message exchanged with another admin between Leticia when they had asked for Leticia to reach out to the page. And that's how they found out who Leticia was and got contact with Leticia.
Yep. There was a lot.
So
A
they
lot.
all come together. It ends up turning up that Tracy and Tony have no back history with Dre originally. However, Gigi has sold paparazzi and was a supporter and didn't appreciate the fact that Dre would not expose and give the details of what the incident was with Vaughn at that time. They link up with another gal named Amanda Cannon. Amanda Cannon was an ex, I don't know, admin friend, supporter who was deemed as part of the group. Her job was to go and find clips you can see in the text messages exchanged with the admins of the group throughout the first, I'm going to say from the 24th to the 6th when Molly takes over. You can see there's numerous exchanges where she is saying, I'm having to watch hours and hours and hours of videos just to find these small clips for us. That is completely telling, in my opinion, but take it for what you want. So she links up with them during that time as well. And now that they've gotten contact with Leticia, they see that Leticia has on June 26th posted to her personal page before anybody has actually fully talked to her or made, full on contact with her at that point. We see that she posts on her page a GoFundMe. It was originally started by a cousin of hers, but she is the beneficiary of that. In the post, it's still up to this day, so you can check it for yourself. But it basically says, I need help to raise funds to get a lawyer to see my son because his wife won't allow me to see him.
Yep. And that
So
was June 26th.
that narrative was then put out that the parents are being denied visitation.
And I think one thing I want to correct too, because somebody will say they're lying. Exposing Dre McCray was made the 23rd, and Justice for Vaughn, because exposing Dre McCray blew up pretty fast and they were losing control of it very quickly. So then they built Justice for Vaughn so they could have a private and a public group. So that's why they did that. And the Justice for Vaughn group got started. So one was more they're exposing and attacking Dre, and the other one was more supposed to be support for Leticia and family, if I understand things correctly. So there was a 2-day gap between the start of the two groups, but that's why. Just
Okay.
so everybody's clear on that. But we are back at the 24th. There was other things that were happening. So
I'm at the 26th. What else am I missing?
the
The
24th
26th is the first time she posts her.
The 24th is a huge date because that's the day that we know that the family received the police report. So,
you're right.
Yeah, and the only reason why we didn't know this at the time, though. A lot of the stuff we found out after the fact, so pieces kind of go here and there. Again, now they didn't post it until the 6th, but we find out on the 6th that they actually had it the 24th. So what we've found out through everything that's been said is Marvon Sr. was told by Tucson PD to contact Yuma. Yuma PD helped him get a copy of the initial report. They sent him that initial report. Leticia also was sent a copy. You can see that in many posts. It's also posted on Facebook. There's a still that shows Leticia was issued that report on 6/24/2022. So then, I mean, that's pretty much all that happens. But again, we don't find out about that until after. But we know that on the 24th, they had possession of that. It just wasn't made public until way after.
Yeah.
So
they knew what had happened to him. They knew what the incident was at that point.
Correct.
They knew that at that point in time, Dre was attempting to keep that private. And again, it's probably an assumption, but I would assume that if that was my husband And I know she did say on lives before, like, if when he is better, if he wants to share that, he can share that. It's his story.
Yeah.
So I understood that part, for me, in my opinion. But they knew at that point in time what the police report showed at that point.
Right. And she was, at the same time that this was happening, that they were finding out stuff, she was in contact and had messages with these admins of the groups and people like that. She was in communication with them and telling them bits and pieces we've learned after the fact again. But on the 26th, then we have more that transpires.
So I know the GoFundMe. What else do you have for the 26th?
Nope, that's basically the 26th. She posts that she needs help seeking legal assistance to have visitation with Marvon.
But
And then
yet to date, she has not made any attempts to go visit.
She's made one attempt to go and visit. Well, she's made one attempt to go and visit that we know of for sure. Now, has she visited? We do not know that for sure, but we believe, especially because Dre says they made an arrangement, so we do believe she did go that one time.
Okay, but within the dates that we're at right now.
Oh no, at that point, she has not made an attempt to go and visit at that point in time. And she, with the GoFundMe, on the 26th, the rumor starts out that there is a peace warrant / temporary protective order / restraining order, and that wildfire blows up
on the 27th.
We believe, well, no, because it's in the GoFundMe.
Oh, that's right, the 26th.
So that would have been the 26th.
Yeah.
So we believe that where that came from is there was a supporter live where somebody suggests getting a restraining order, and you hear Dre on that live saying, you have to have a lot to prove to the courts to get one of those, so that won't work for me. But I think that they heard that conversation, clipped it, ran with it.
Because on the 27th, oh, go ahead.
I'm just having a very hard time wrapping my head around their GoFundMe or their reason for the GoFundMe, legal fees and for visitation and whatnot. But yet to date, up to that date, she had not stepped foot into the medical facility where Vaughn was at to see if she could in fact visit or if she was going to be denied.
Correct. Not as of June 26th. No, the only thing that she knew of was the video that she seen from Marvon Sr. being denied. But we know that there had been conversations with Marvon Sr. with updates of him seeing Vaughn and what he was seeing and talking to the PD. So she knew that he was able to see him.
Yeah, they communicated that.
And that was prior to the GoFundMe even being created. She knew that. That's a good point, Tessa.
I can't wrap my head around it. Like, how are you going to put a GoFundMe up, but yet you have not even made a physical attempt to go and see?
And I think that what you're asking right here is because people had started to ask that same question once they saw the video after it got leaked out of supporters and it was clipped. People had started to see, oh, wait, he was denied. But then there was a lot of people saying, no, that's not possible. They can't do that because there's laws against it. And there started to be questions. So the 26th, we see this GoFundMe go up. The 27th, and it mentions this peace warrant. The 27th, there's another post made that brings this order up that is preventing her from seeing Marvon. I think that was developed, in my own opinion. Again, I'm speaking for Contessa, and that's it. But in my opinion, that was developed because there was the supporter live that somebody possibly clipped and sent to her about, hey, they're suggesting she does this. But somehow in the game of telephone that they've all played the entire time, it got to her that, hey, she took out a warrant on you or an order of protection. And so that's where the family started running with, because that would explain why they couldn't visit at the time either. That's my opinion again only, but it seemed, because that was only mentioned for a few days, this restraining order. And again, there has been nothing ever filed. We've searched high and low. There is no restraining orders placed on anybody.
I mean, I myself have had legal issues, so if that one chick that's always screaming about running background checks wants to run mine, go ahead. But I know for sure I would be picking up the phone, calling the courthouse, calling the PD, calling whoever I needed to call to find out, did somebody put out a restraining order on me? Do I, will I be denied access if I go to visit? I'm
Well,
not just going to sit back and take a little snippet of something that was said somewhere, this, that, and the other, and run with it. I mean, that's just me though.
and am I not, like, I don't know, again, I'm not a legal expert by any means, but with restraining orders that I've ever known of, they have to be served on the person in order for it to even be valid. So
Yes.
with Leticia being in Georgia and, Dre being in Arizona, first and foremost, service would have had to happen. And we've got such a short window, and there was nothing that would have even justified at that point in time, in my opinion, that order being granted, let alone there was nothing ever filed for.
Can I read just really quickly? I wanted to read the actual wording on the GoFundMe for us just to kind
Yes,
of break it
please.
down because it's a lot of what we're talking about.
That would be wonderful.
So it
Have it.
says, first it starts off, with permission from my cousin, I created this GoFundMe to try to raise enough funds to get an attorney to get an emergency hearing in front of a judge to grant my family some time with Marvon. So number one, with permission from my cousin, which means Leticia was okay with somebody asking for money on her behalf. That's what that tells. That's not prayers. That's definitely money. Then it goes on to say, we want to be allowed the opportunity to be by his side during this journey. Okay, nothing wrong with that. His wife has many barriers in place, not allowing us the opportunity to visit or receive medical updates. Now, don't get me wrong. I'll give you the medical updates because you're not entitled to that legally. Am I right?
You're right.
Correct.
But the many barriers in place that don't allow them to visit is a lie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Then it goes on to say she has taken peace warrants and other orders that is blocking this from happening. That I know of, not one person has been able to find a order, which to me an order speaks to a judge has signed off on this and said this can happen. I haven't seen any orders in all of Arizona. Have you guys?
No. And let's just let's play devil's advocate here. Let's say there was an order in place. Letitia or anyone else that has an order against them has every right to step into that courthouse and defend themselves and give the reasons why they believe that the order is not needed or why it was taken out over malice or whatever their reason may be. But she would have had an opportunity to defend herself and to have it either dropped or converted or anything.
Don't they usually issue a temporary order of protection, which only lasts for whatever the judge decides, whether it's a week, but until both parties can actually get to the courtroom? So then they set a court date. Isn't that how that works usually?
That usually takes place, like, say, a couple get into an argument, a fight, something happens, and the police are called out. The police can issue like a temporary, like a 72 hour, and tell the person, okay, you now need to go to the courthouse as soon as it opens and file the restraining order. In a case where these people live different states away from each other and that type of thing, I don't see a temporary being put in place. And if it was filed online or anything like that, you have to have all proof in hand.
Okay, that's because I was thinking maybe it was, but still, even with it even if it was a temporary order, which we know it wasn't, but let's just say again, playing devil's advocate, um, even a temporary order, there would be a case number associated with it and filed, right?
Absolutely. And most likely it would be a civil and not a criminal. So a civil's definitely going to show up.
Okay.
There's nothing violent in their past. There's nothing showing that there was any type of threats or anything back and forth. Another issue that I have with the restraining order is Dre may have been able to attempt to get one for Leticia not to come in her presence, but I don't think she would have the ability to get one in for Vaughn. She wouldn't be able to do it on his behalf.
Right. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for answering that.
So the only thing that would be able to do would be to block her if Dre is present at that time visiting.
Absolutely.
So they just couldn't be in the same place at the same time.
Yes. And restraining orders work both ways. So if Leticia is visiting and Dre shows up, then Dre would have to leave. And if Dre is visiting and Leticia shows up, then Leticia would have to leave. They would have to somehow coordinate and work that out.
Okay.
All right.
But again, there's nothing that we can find that any order ever existed, was ever filed for anything. There's nothing in the court system whatsoever. So that has been searched high and low. So we're at what, the 27th? There was a post about what that included. Then where are we going to jump next? What's the big date?
I think the next date would be July 1st. On July 1st, there is a video posted in the Facebook group, which is a screen record where somebody is saying that they're across the street from Dre's mom's house and they're playing the Tucson radio station and, essentially asking her to come out and play.
Yep, that did happen. It has been removed off social
It
media.
was definitely deleted.
Yep. But that did happen. It was shared quite extensively. Did Dre go live on the 28th of June?
Yes, she did.
Sorry, that was one note I had too. And in that live,
She did her Addressing Rumors is the title of that live, and it's still up on her page.
Yeah. And if you want to see that one, it's all there. She does explain quite a bit in that live.
One of the things I found interesting in that live is she does talk about, and there is a supporters live where she talks about it as well, is that one of his sisters, not the one we've seen be very vocal, but another one of his sisters reached out and that she was upset about the fact that she was denying them visitation because of his condition. And she said they ended up being able to have a civil conversation to the point of saying, like, as soon as he is better, you can definitely come, like, we're going to work on it. And in the end of their conversation, the sister actually ends up sending her $200 to help with his care.
Yeah. And this is the same sister that had also gotten that same exact text message that we've seen Leticia got. That was multiple people got the same text message that they were limiting visitors. So this is the same family members that were getting these also, that then in turn also helped Dre.
And that is the sister who we've seen Vaughn in his own words say that was the sister he was closest to in different videos. It's the sister who we have not, I don't think I've seen anything. I haven't seen her in any comments on any post and any lives. Like, I've seen her nowhere near this entire social media thing as far as this goes.
She was in the Justice for Vaughn group. I do have screenshots of some of the comments she made, but they were always very uplifting towards the other sister. And that's basically it. Like, she would come in and comment on a post that the other sister made. And if the other sister was getting asked questions, she would make something very uplifting, very lighthearted, never negative, never nothing. And there was probably like 5 max that I found.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, that's the 30th. I think from there it goes into, were we ever able to confirm the date that the text messages where Dre reaches out to Leticia to try and work on things?
No. So
we know for sure that they were prior to the 6th.
Correct.
And we know for sure that they were not prior to the 1st of July. So they were somewhere over that 4th of July weekend.
So we go into what, July 1st now is where we're at. Was there anything significant on July 1st that was posted to your guys' knowledge?
Not that I can think of right now.
I can't think. I don't have anything listed, so I'm assuming there might have been some posts and stuff, but not big events. But then we go into, and we don't find out about this either until after the fact, but we find out that Leticia was supposedly in Arizona from July 3rd till July 6th. But again, we don't find out about that until after the fact. What we see on social media, though, is there's posts being made. July 4th, she makes a post with her Cash App, giving an update that she had $791 and some cents, I think is what it was. And then she makes another post thanking people for donating. At that point in time, the group, the Justice for Vaughn and Exposing Dre McCrae groups, had been sharing her GoFundMe and her Cash Apps. She actually posted her Cash App on July 4th on her private page. Am I missing anything else that you guys have in those dates?
No, that is when the Cash App came. I believe it's when the first total was given as well, because I think people were starting to get to see the fact that Senior had gone and visited. And so I think that that's when, kind of around the time when questions really started, and they didn't understand like what they were looking at and what was going on. So they did start to actually post the totals that they had at that point in time.
And at this point in time, too, still in the time frame, people need to understand that this had not blown up to the extent it did. Like, it was starting to kick up and gain speed. It was being posted about on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, but it hadn't really rocketed, I guess you could say, at this point in time. So there was still a lot of things being done in the groups, posts all day long, every day. Anytime Dre would do a supporters live, a reel, anything, it would be clipped and posted. But July 4th, they do post the update. She thanks people. And in one of those posts, she actually states that she had been seeking attorneys from Georgia to Arizona, and they had been getting nowhere. Anything you guys want to add to that part?
Georgia to Arizona. Now, why Georgia? Because most of the time, each state some attorneys have state to state license, but I would think you would want to seek out an attorney in Arizona because that is where he is at.
I'll read the post. She kind of does explain it. So she recognizes the difference. So she just says, I really need help to get a lawyer for visitation rights to see my son. If no one wants to contribute to GoFundMe, here's my Cash App. Everything helps. Or if you know a lawyer that practices family law that's in Tucson that's willing to take our case, please let me know. I've contacted a lot of lawyers in Tucson and the surrounding areas. I'm in Georgia. And if I have to get one here, it's really going to cost because they will have to do a lot of traveling back and forth with this case. Thank you so much for everyone who have supported thus far. It's greatly appreciated.
So that's when we're first made aware that they were having some issues finding legal representation. That's kind of the first post of that, correct?
Yes, and this is when my understanding is this is when Brittany Munoz, the ex-admin, was actually helping by calling different lawyers' office. It's been said numerous times that they went through, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 lawyers, calling and calling and calling, trying to get somebody to pick up the case. However, nobody would until they found the first lawyer they found was Keystone, and then which is actually was through MGL, so it's later on. But then when they actually do the consult with Keystone, it's too expensive. They can't afford that. So they find another person who is willing to take it, who is a little less expensive.
And there's a lot of questions with all of that. But July 5th, wasn't there another post that was made also that was made by Leticia Bias? I think it was only posted in the group, if I'm correct on it, which I've checked multiple times. So I think it is only a group post again, which she said, or she posted a screenshot of a location in Tucson, and it said 5 miles away at the top of it, but it also had the name of a facility. Wasn't that July 5th?
I'm gonna go look at it right now just to confirm. But yeah, I know that it was over that 4th of July weekend for sure.
And we are doing this just to double check each other, you guys, too. Like, this is how we make sure we are right. You know, we're not just running on things and saying, oh, yeah, you said it's true. It's got to be. Because we get stuff wrong. At this point in time, everything's kind of a jumbled date.
I think there's enough of that. So we don't need any additional.
We're trying to break it down.
Hold on. You know,
we do have text messages, though, that are posted on Facebook that show.
Oh, it is July 4th.
It's July 4th that she posted that?
Yep.
Okay. So
and the
July
post 4th. Says, hello, I really need you all help/support. I need anyone in or near Tucson to contact me. And she posts a picture of the hospital, and it says that it is 5 miles away.
Okay. So July 4th is when that's first posted. So yeah, I have a lot of emotions about that.
So at that point, again, now on July 4th, it's put out there that, you know, and again, people speculate a lot of things. So now this hospital is put out there. It is speculated that this is where Vaughn is located. People begin to talk about going to protest in front of the hospital. And that was put out by Leticia.
And they're talking in the admin group about Leticia being in Arizona, and she wasn't making that public knowledge because she didn't want there to be issues. You can, again, read all of these posts, but she was telling the admins as she was, so during this time frame, that she was in Tucson to visit Marvon and being turned around.
I am curious if you guys know, I can't imagine that, you know, a TBI, that type of brain injury to me would mean that there is a select amount of hospitals in one area that you could go to get care for that type of injury, right? It's not like it's going to be, you know, your normal, like run of the mill hospitals. Like it's going to have to be somewhere that has those specialties, right?
Correct.
So when you hear them, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, finish.
So when you hear them saying, there's no way for us to figure it out, she's hiding him from us, I think I just struggle with that because I don't understand how it would. I mean, here's clear proof that you knew where he was. You knew the law because Marvon Sr. had shared that. You knew you weren't blocked from it. You knew you didn't have a restraining order because even she has stated the restraining order, according to her, expired on June 30th. And this is now July 4th weekend that you're there. Why didn't you go and see him?
Yeah.
I just want to add that every facility that they have stated Vaughn was supposedly at, I have researched, and they all fall under the federal mandate for visitation. So the hospital, long-term care facilities, specialty facilities would not have turned anyone away from visiting.
And that's a hard thing too, because so she's telling people on these dates that she's in Arizona, right? We know that her and Dre had communicated before. We know that the communication was going well up until that point. We know that she was upset with Dre because Dre said we have to limit visitors due to precautions. But then here she is on, the 3rd through the 6th, claiming to the admins that she is in Arizona. She's going to the courthouses. She went to the ethics committee, that Dre had this order on her. She's been denied, that she went to the hospital to visit him, was turned around, and then she called the facility and recorded the call of them basically confirming that, yes, he was there, but they couldn't tell her anything. Again, this isn't made public until after the fact, but these are things that are being, we know now, we're being told. You can read these messages yourself. So she's doing all this work, telling people that she's doing all this stuff, but we can't prove that she was actually doing all of this stuff to see him in any way, shape, or form.
Can we discuss that phone call to the facility?
Yeah, we can, because that brings us right into the date. That was actually taken on, well, it was posted after the fact, after it was sent to creators that got involved, the bigger YouTube creators. Without a Crystal Ball was actually who posted the video first, and it's still up on her page if you want to see that. It's also in some of my videos. But yes, please.
Just trying to stick with the timeline. On July 6th is where Molly, Go Lightly, and Justice for All. And at that point, Crystal Ball, although not together, but they both get involved in the situation at that point. And you can check their first videos out. Their first videos are completely speculative, very sensational, not fact-based, but they are just flying off at the hinges at that point in time. And, people start calling people murderers, and I know she did this. And I mean, just all of it just skyrockets from there into all bad. Okay. Now take it to your date.
That video is shared Without a Crystal Ball by Leticia. Leticia sends that video, and I'm going to let Blonde Tessa talk about the video, because it is, there's a lot.
So essentially it is Leticia calling the facility to ask if Vaughn is there, and it's established that he's there, but the wording that is used, I'm very conflicted with it, because when I listen to it, I hear her asking for medical information, and she is told, you will have to speak with the wife. I cannot give you that information. Then she states something along the lines of, even if I visit, and he says yes. So my interpretation of that is that he's thinking she's asking if she can get medical information if she's there, if she's in person visiting. I don't know. What do you all think? What do you think about the wording in that video?
I'm actually pulling the video up right now so I can play it right quick. Hold on, just give me a second. Fuck Tessa, you want to sound off what you think? Okay.
Maybe if I can get myself connected. There we go. Sorry.
Oh, did it cut
my interpretation was the same. I heard the same. Where they wanted to make that about visitation, I understood it to be, if you are physically here in the building and you ask for a medical update, you still are going to be told you have to ask for his wife and get that from his wife.
Okay.
I'll play
that was my interpretation as well, but I know that definitely was left up to interpretation. I also think that was intentionally left up to interpretation, but that's just my opinion of it.
I'll play it right quick. Hopefully you guys can hear it. It's
Select Medical is Brian. How can I help you?
Hey Brian, how you doing? My name is Leticia Bias, and I was wondering, do you have my son at your hospital? His name is Marvon McCray.
What was the last name?
McCray, MCCRAY. I'm his mother.
Unfortunately, we're not allowed to give out any information on him.
At all, even because I came to Tucson to see him.
At all. You got to talk to his wife.
Okay. And there's no way like anyone else I can maybe speak to?
Nope, she is the only one that we're allowed to give information to.
Even with me visiting him?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
No problem.
All right.
And that's all that was. That was posted on July 7th on Without a Crystal Ball's channel.
That call just, I don't know. I have
So
many
I think
questions.
the hard part for me is, so he starts off and she says, "Can you tell me if he's there?" Right? And so he says, "Well, you'll have to speak to his wife about that." Okay, well, can I get a medical update on him? You're going to have to talk to his wife about that. Okay, well, what if I visit? You're going to have to talk to his wife about that. Like, to me, it feels like that is like, hey, you need to go talk to his wife about all of this stuff at this point. I don't think that is for me, that's not a decline. No, don't come here and don't visit. I still don't understand why you wouldn't show up at the door with, and I know that there is a live. I don't know the date of it. Maybe you will, Contessa, but there is a live where Justin and Molly talk about printing out the law and sending that with her so that she can show them when she shows up. There is no way that they can decline her. And they were gonna send. It's actually the phone call where Trail is interviewed, her brother. But like it's very clear that she's gonna show up with these papers. By golly, she's gonna see him. So that phone call again, in my opinion, is just to push this same narrative of I can't see him because she won't let me.
It also seems so scripted because typically if you call, they're not just going to go by the name. They're also going to ask the birth date of the patient. I don't know, just the wording, that call just seems so strange to me. But it is what it is.
I can't understand why you would go there to visit somebody, right? So supposedly she's there and she went to the facility. She met with the ethics committee and was denied through them. But then she leaves, right? Because supposedly she recorded this while she was there, is what she told the creator. And she goes back to wherever she was staying, makes this phone call and records it. Why would she record the phone call after she was just denied in person? I mean, I just can't, unless she had the intentions on making it public, which obviously she did after the fact, but I can't rationalize that thought process of how things were like done backwards to fit a story instead of this is how the story actually goes.
Now, the only thing I could think of at this point is that the social media witch hunt was so bad and they were receiving so many calls from so many strangers regarding Vaughn that at that point they just kind of shut it down for the health and safety of the staff and the patients at the facility. That is the only reason why I could think of that they would deny or kind of postpone or just, not grant a visitation or more information.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if we do know that we see on live, and I don't know the date. So, and I don't even know if the video is still up at this point. It could be, could not. But there is a video where Molly gets really, really upset because she calls and calls and calls this facility and they will not speak with her. And to the point where one time when she calls, she says, "Hi, this is, whatever, Marissa or whatever. And I'm actually calling to check on a patient. And his name is Marvon." And the lady's like, "We can't speak on it. Have a nice day." And she's like, "I didn't even tell you the last name." She's like, "We can't speak on it. Have a nice day." For the hospital to be reacting in that way, that does tell me that people, I mean, I would be very inclined to believe the theory that people are calling nonstop. And she actually gets hung up on and gets livid calls back. A different lady answers, and that lady says, "We cannot give you any information. Have a great day. Please don't call anymore."
Yeah, I remember that. I don't think the video is up anymore either.
So I can understand why it would be like the hospital is like, "Look, go, if you're his mother, we understand why you're calling, but you need to speak with his wife."
Not only was the hospital getting calls at the same time of this, there's another piece that was at the same time. They were also encouraging calls within these groups to be made to CPS
Mm-hmm.
in regards to the children. That was also happening at the same time.
And APS.
Yes, Adult Protective
APS
Services.
actually came up twice. It started in the beginning and then back again when Marvon Sr. does a live, and he talks about how the nurse supposedly told him, which I've never heard of such a thing, but the nurse suggested to him that he contact APS.
Yeah.
I always thought nurses were mandated reporters, and so if she felt like a call needed to be made, she would have, but not according to their story.
And going back to the nurse too, we found out after the fact that Marvon Sr. and Wynette, during their visit to Arizona, had made a contact of some sort. Now, it said in text messages she's referred to as a nurse. We don't know exactly her title, but it's stated that she's in some sort of capacity at the hospital, and she was trying to help them navigate a little bit of this situation after they returned to Georgia, because she was still in Arizona. So we do know that was happening some at this point in time too. So what date do we want to stop with this one and pick it up when the big explosion, because we're at July 6th, 7th, and this is when the huge explosion on social media really kicks off. Do you guys want to continue with this one, or do we want to do a part 2 and pick up there?
I'm good either way.
Do you guys have time?
I'm good.
Okay, just making sure. I want to make sure everybody's got time. So let's continue on then. We are at what date is the next big explosion that you have?
I have July 8th.
Okay, there's
So on the morning of July 8th, Molly goes live. She reads the text messages between Dre and Leticia, calls them blackmail, and says that Leticia is being blackmailed to be able to see her son. And then later on that afternoon / early evening, the Facebook group posts those messages, allegedly for transparency. So they claim, because people started to question, if Dre is working with you, why are we doing this? Why are we paying money? This doesn't make sense. And so to shut it all down, they posted that it was blackmail. And essentially, to paraphrase the text messages, they said, look, at this point, people, and they were, she wasn't wrong. People were at her house. Molly had made a post, I want to say on the 6th or 7th, that stated that people need to watch her. Her being Dre. Molly had made a post that a person watching her had reached out and said they weren't too far away. They were going to go buy the house, and grab some video for her. There was a video then shown on live where the person is now, over the fence, not over the fence. They're leaning over the fence and recording over the fence for them to get a better look at the shed. There's recordings of the front of the house. There's a whole live where they are on Google Earth and kind of zooming into the home so you can see it. All this while there is potentially, they don't know at that point in time if Dre is at the house or if the kids are at the house. You have the video that came out where they were saying they were going to be across the street from Dre's mom's house. So, she immediately starts to wind down her time on social media fairly quickly after that.
her sister
Anyways,
was also getting threats.
the sister got threatening messages to her about how could you do this to the family, or how could you let your sister do this to her family, whatever. So at that point in time, she sends messages and says, like, you're putting my kids at risk, And for their safety, I'm willing to work with you and let you come and see him. And I've always been open to working with you. I'm not sure why you think not, but this has got to stop. How do we, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, how do we fix this? And so then Leticia says, I hope that you're not lying to me. I hope that you really do want to work with me. I would never put the kids or you, or Marvon in any danger. That's not what I would ever do. Which well, I'll try not. Let me keep it to the facts, not my opinion. So that's not what I would ever do. And so Dre says, look, please make a public statement that we are working together so that the public backs off and my family can be safe. If you do that, then I will go ahead and we can work it out so that you can come and see Marvon. Leticia takes those messages, passes them off to the admins, and we'll go back to where they came from in the first place. Pass them off to the admins, and there is instant. Again, remember, these are people who already had a specific intention and thought process and feelings against Dre. I just don't feel like they were the best people to run reconciliation and forgiveness through the minds of.
We forgot a big piece I just thought of too. On the 6th, wasn't the police report released publicly?
I thought it was on the 8th. Because
was
it was
it on
right
the-
around the text messages, because it was
Hold
made,
on.
in my opinion, it was made for it to look like, let's tell you the truth.
Give me a minute. I'm just going to verify the date because I think I have the 6th was the first time Leticia posted it because the other creator got it on the 7th. Let me verify. I'll be right here.
Let's see if I can pull it up too. Hold on.
See, we double check ourselves and correct ourselves all the time. It's not just
so many screenshots. It's ridiculous.
Thousands and thousands of them. And it's hard to, when you look at it so many times, you start going, oh. It is the 6th.
Okay.
The 6th was the first time that it was released in the group.
All right. Okay.
Is what I have for screenshots of that. And on that is where you see where the police report was released to Leticia Bias on June 24th, 2022.
Right. And I think that she actually states on that post, essentially, and correct me if I'm wrong, something like, we just found this out today and we need time to process these thoughts. But right above it shows you've had it since the 24th. That's like a week and a half, I think, or a week and, almost 2 weeks, I think.
Give me 1 second and I'll read it verbatim for you. Sorry, I just have to go. Okay. So what it says is trigger warning. It saddens me to inform you all that my son's injury is the result of him trying to unalive himself. My family and I are in total disbelief. We don't understand how something of this magnitude could happen. It really breaks my heart even further that his wife knew this was the cause all along of his injury and refused to tell his family this. We ask that you please keep us in your prayers. Please give us some time to process this. Thank you all for your support. And then there is other posts, around it. And the 5th is the date that actually going back on that too, on the 30th in one of their posts, they had mentions that he had high levels of special K in his system. And all of us were thrown by that at the time of how they would know that. But now after the fact, we learned that they had the police report on the 24th. So that's where they got that information. But again, it wasn't released until the 6th of July.
Now, can you help me kind of understand because I don't know much about that kind of stuff. But can you help me understand? So, why was there 2 police reports kind of issued?
Tessa, do you want to answer that one?
So there was the initial, which is just the basic information from the officer, on scene, just the basic facts on scene, and then they go back and they do their supplemental reports, and they are the final report where they go into detail. And when they go into detail, they're pulling from the emergency service people who were on scene, they're pulling from the fire department. They're much, much more detailed. But the initial report is always just kind of a summary of the events that took place on that day. And it takes a few days. I mean, they're not going from scene to the department to type up their reports. They take their initial, it's put into the system, and then they go back to it after they have everything together from all departments.
So can you kind of talk about so the same way that you get access to the police department reports, can you get access to the fire department reports?
Typically, no, because there is going to be medical information in there that is going to need to be redacted. And I mean, I'm sure there are reasons and ways and whatnot to get it, but it's not something that they typically release to the public.
Okay. And there was a big whoop-de-doo that the case was still open. And I know we've spoke about this before, but just because they do a report does not immediately close a case, right? Is there not a process that it has to go through, or no, that's not how it works?
There's a difference between open or active. The case can sit open, and I mean, it doesn't have to be closed, but it also doesn't have to be active. It could just be open until they're finished gathering all of their information. It could be open because they're expecting there to be some sort of changes down the line, or it could be open because they feel that it's, they have their reasons. I know in some cases they don't want to give video footage and that type of thing. So the case will remain open so that they don't have to follow through with giving the police cam footage.
Is it possible that his condition, as it had a potential to change or not change over time, is it possible that his condition needing to be noted was a reason, or no?
I mean, possibly, but the way that the report reads, it was pretty cut and dry as the direction and, what they believed it to be. But I do think that they kept it open because there was so much going on with social media, so many people calling and all of that. They kept it open just to see, okay, well, maybe there will be more that we need to add to it. Maybe there is another avenue that we have to look at. But there is a big difference between open and active. And I believe the case, yes, it was open, but I don't think that they were working it actively.
Because this is sensitivity of the body cam footage, do you think it would be possible to leave the case open? Because as long as it's open, they can't release it just yet. And I know there were multiple emails that went out that said, we can't release it. It's still open. Is that a possibility of maybe if we stop getting all these requests, we can actually close it out at that time?
Yeah, I think they're hoping that this is just going to, I don't want to say blow over, but I think that they're really hoping that the chaos of this all will die down, the social media chaos, and that the family dispute will be resolved. And then the case can be closed and we all just kind of move on from this. Not all of us, social media moves on from this, but of course the family is always going to have to deal with the tragedies and the events that occurred.
Isn't it common also, and granted, this might be different in everybody's experiences too, but from what I understand, that it is sometimes common with attempting unaliving and unsuccessful attempts while the person is still in the hospital. Sometimes cases just remain open until there's a change in status. I've also heard that that is pretty common too, until they have like a either an answer one way or the other, like this person went home or, the ulterior. Uh, that was something that was told to me too, that they can leave them open just for that duration.
That could very well be. I'm not sure how Yuma PD works those types of cases.
I think it's probably different every case to
Mhm.
case too.
Yes.
Okay.
I will say that um, my dad actually he committed, he followed through, and he has now passed. And his the police report and the coroner's report for him, although it was a very cut and dry case, it was very obvious that he did it to himself. It took nearly 4 months for them to close it.
Okay. And again, I'm sorry for your loss. I know that that can't be easy at all. So I just have to say that again. Every time anybody mentions it, I'm just, ugh.
Thank you. He's at peace.
And that's the thing too, is, it's even hard to talk about this because and we've talked about this before, like even having to use social media standards, it's not really helping educate people, saying unalive, people are like, what are you trying to say? Like, it's so hard. So sorry if I stumble when I try to navigate words with that. It's a sensitive subject that I'm trying to figure out what is the best way of handling the wording around it. So
I do not like those words. I'm
I
just
don't
like,
either.
call it what it is, because the only way that we are going to educate, the only way that we are going to put prevention or awareness in place is to be very blunt and very honest about it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Agree. 100% agree with you on that.
Yes.
It needs to be talked about, and it needs to be, I don't understand. We see so much happen on social media that is horrific, but then we can't talk about things that really need talked about. These are discussions that need to be had and
absolutely.
addressed with the correct terms. How else are we going to educate our children,
Yeah.
Yeah.
One other thing about the text messages I think I may have forgot is it did later on come out that the text messages that were exchanged between Leticia and Dre, that Leticia was having both Eve, Steph Baker, as well as, or AKA Steph Baker, as well as the admins of the Facebook group help her. Essentially, they were writing those messages back to Dre. And I think that that really leaves it just, in my opinion, those people aren't connected to your family. They don't have to deal with the aftermath. They're not dealing with it on a very heart level. They're dealing with it on a very surface level. And so I think that that just, for me, when I seen that, it really showed just the misguidance that started. Like it really feels like nobody in the very, very beginning of this, nobody sat back and thought logically. Nobody sat back and was like, well, wait a second. Maybe we shouldn't be helping you write these text messages. This is your family. And so we don't want to write it for you, but tell us what you want to say. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, she may take that the wrong way. Maybe just change that sentence. They never did that. They didn't. So they're not really advocating on her behalf. They are speaking on her behalf. And
and
that's where we started to see a lot of the ghostwriting coming in, because everybody became a spokesperson on her behalf and spoke for her. But at the end of the day, all of those people get to go back home to their families while yours is in shambles. And to this day, it still continues, where now her new advocate, is old honker over there. But it's always somebody different speaking on her behalf. And I don't understand. Maybe I'm just a different type of person. I don't need anybody to speak my intentions for me.
another thing, though, to mention too, that was very concerning at that point in time with Leticia and these admins was we have now seen the text messages between the admins and Leticia, where Leticia actually informs this admin group of the police report and what's contained in the police report before she does her own family. She actually, they say in these messages that the family, aka his siblings, do not know, and please let her have time to tell them. Why would she be telling complete strangers on the internet these such personal private details before her family? That has sat wrong with me the entire time. Again, I understand there's family, everybody's got their own family shit, but these are people that were supposedly her support. We saw the one daughter, her husband, like people that were speaking out on her behalf in these groups. Why wouldn't she have told them before these admins? I can't wrap my head around that. Granted, we don't know if that's how it happened in reality, but that's what's being told at the time. We know that she told them, and said that they knew before the family did. I can't go there. I can't figure that out. Do you guys have anything else to
I'm
add?
trying to look at. I actually wanted to see. I wanted to kind of. I don't think I've ever looked at it to align the dates before. So I was trying to go back to the 24th and see.
Ooh, sorry if you just heard that, you guys. We're getting a thunderstorm.
If y'all get rain, send it our way.
I
We
know
need
that's right.
Yeah, you guys need it. We actually got a little bit earlier today, and then you guys need some of the rain from the south right now, and they need you guys to take some of that. For sure. What dates are you looking for? I might be able to help you.
I was looking to see if there was anything that had been posted on it prior to the July 6th day, because she states her children don't know. But the one kid is pretty vocal about everything that goes on. So
And
I
we
was
know the high levels of K was actually mentioned by one of them, by one of the family members.
prior to that date.
Prior to the 6th, yes.
Oh, all right. Well,
I just want to know whose idea it was to release the police report and whose idea did Leticia write that post? Was that her or did somebody else do that for her? Because was she not thinking about his children? Was she not thinking about Raza? Was she not thinking about the girls?
Well, actually, in the text messages that we see, and let me grab them if I can, the exact one so I can read it. But there is mention of, let me see. I try to find these so I am not paraphrasing all of it, but there's so many screenshots.
I know. That's what I'm trying to go through.
It's like, which one is which here? And we apologize, or I apologize. What you guys see is what you get. If they don't have dates on them, we have tried to put them in order and things like that, but we have got what we've got because this is what has been sent. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any confirmation prior to that other than what you've got.
Okay, let me. So we do know too on, what is it? July 6th, another family member had made a post back to that, that talked about help for Leticia, that she needed help. So it was mentioned again and again, another request from a family member that obviously was asking for help. So there was multiple people. So it wasn't just prayers once again, but I'm going to look for this. You guys want to go on to the next?
So what date are we at? That's the 6th, 8th. The text messages were the 8th. The police report was the 6th.
Well, I know how I found out about this was Manny behind the mic. He covers someone local to his town. And Dre did a live with her. It was in the wee hours of the morning. I want to say the 6th or the 7th.
Vanessa.
Yes. And that's how I stumbled across this story.
And that is, I believe, so her last live for supporters was on July 5th. She stopped going live. There were no more updates given after that. There still has not been. And I want to say that live was either the 5th or the 6th, but let me find out.
There's just so many dates in all of this stuff. It's
I want to say 6th, 7th, but you.
I think it was the 7th.
It
I
was
did a
at
video
wee
on it.
hours of the morning.
A lot of this stuff has been out there for quite a while too. Like that was covered extensively by multiple creators too after it happened. All right. Oh, on the 8th also, Leticia made a comment to the admins that people had been asking questions about the fundraiser. That we do have.
And let me just say that when I first stumbled upon this story, I let the emotions get to me. And I sat back and was like, oh my God, as a mother, she's not being able to see her child and, the, attempted unaliving and all of that. So I became very emotional in it. And I was watching a lot of the drama channels. And then eventually I sat back and I said, no, you need to think of this logically, and started putting things in order, going, wait a minute, I question this, I question that. So I, in the beginning, was very much, I don't want to say taking Leticia's side, but I felt a ton of empathy for her.
Yeah, that's understandable.
And it was all based on emotion. I still feel empathy for her because of the situation, but I'm a little more cautious now with how I look at the story.
Yeah, me too. And I think it's because there's so much that we learned that was going on that none of us knew about. July 7th, also, I just wanted to let you guys know I do have text messages that fit there that are dated, that she was also telling the admins people had reached out and offered to pay for an attorney, fully pay for an attorney. That was an offer that was made to her.
Oh, I remember in the chats.
The live. Oh, sorry.
I remember in the chats people, saying that they would help assist with paying for attorneys, airline tickets. I mean, it was anything and everything. Here. We've got it. We'll do what it takes.
Yep.
The live with Vanessa was on July 7th.
Okay. And then July 8th, I just found this text message too, which is in that time frame. But Leticia was asked, and these again are posted on Facebook. You can find them; they're all there. It says by Tony. Tony asked at late night, July 7th. She said, "How much more do you need to get to the $4,000?" Question mark. A lot? Question mark. Fast forward to July 8th, after it's like 1:03 a.m. when Leticia responds again. And then she responds and says $500 to Tony's question of how much more do you need to get to the 4,000, which at that point in time, what the public was being told is she needed $4,000 to retain an attorney. Granted, we do know now that there was multiple amounts told to different people. There was $2,500 told to one person, but 4,000 is what she was stating at this time to this group of people. And on July 8th, she was only $500 away from that goal.
And that you said that was July 8th?
Yes, that was July 8th.
Those donations came in quick.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you figure July 8th and we're still collecting to this day, this is September 30th. So July 8th, August 8th, September 8th. So almost 3 months later, because almost October 8th. So a little shy of 3 months.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll let people do their own math from there. They can come to their own conclusion. We won't. Now, I believe that actually leads us into the first refund request.
Well, let's go back to July 9th because I have those right in front of me too. Just to give people a breakdown of numbers that were being given at that time. So I'm looking at a screenshot from July 9th from the same admin chat. They had asked, Gigi asked Leticia, do you know these people? She sends a screenshot of 2 pending posts for the group. One was by Shantae Brown. It says amounts collected so far per Leticia Bias. Total amount collected so far, Cash App $2,892, Zelle $490, GoFundMe $1,830, equals a total of $5,212. That's what she had said at that point in time. So this was again the 9th. Legal representation had been offered to be paid in full. She was $500 from her goal at that point in time, but then we hear the next day she's already over what, $1,200 over what she needed for the retainer of $4,000. And then going into the 10th, there was a post made by Leticia on July 10th that people had been asking questions and making comments about the fundraiser. And we know that on July 10th, the first refund request was sent to Leticia.
Right. And at this point in time, she is still in contact with Molly. She is still in contact with Katie at that point in time. However, the group is kind of starting to struggle because there is a lot that isn't making sense now that they're watching videos, they're asking questions, they're hearing her interviewed, and her stories don't align with what she was telling them before. And so they really start to ask a lot of questions, and the group they really start to struggle to hold on to, to their foundation.
Yep. Oh, I did find the text message too that I was looking for about what she had said about the kids.
I'm sorry. Also, the date for Brittany's interview with Katie, do you know what date that was? Because I think that's an important part, because people started to be very weary. Well, no, they didn't learn about her past until later on.
That was July 6th.
We're not at that date yet, right?
No, Katie interviewed Brittany. Brittany popped into Katie's comments on Katie's first live stream discussing this, which would have been July 6th, if I'm correct. It was either July 6th or the 7th, but I'm pretty sure it was the 6th. Actually, it might have been the 7th, the day of the 7th. But she pops into, I did a video on this too. Sorry, give me 1 second. She pops in the middle of Katie's live. Katie invites her up and she goes live with Katie and explains that. But that was in that first day or two that Katie was covering the case. Oh, and I did find Leticia had told the admins of the group while she was supposedly in Arizona. She mentions the high levels of Kate in his system, again, acknowledging that they had the police report before they posted it publicly. And those are all on Facebook already. So you guys can check and verify all that, because I know we mentioned that somebody else had mentioned it too. And the ones, they did fit in that same, the 5th through the 7th, or 5th through the 8th text messages from the admins and Leticia that.
Yeah, it really feels like a lot happened between the 5th through the 8th.
So much. Yeah.
Like
And
they're really, and I think that's why people get so lost. Even when you release videos, people will, like, I see them in the comments all the time, and they're asking like, tell me how this ties into the story, because they see this video, they see screenshots and screen records and receipts and things like that. They see it, but they don't know how it ties in. So I actually don't think that even till right now, while we're talking about it, I don't think I even realized how much had happened in that 3-day span. Well, technically 4 days, but
And even, looking at these messages from the admin groups too, they didn't really know all of what was going on, because I have messages from their group where Gigi's saying that it was the family member of Leticia's, the Trell, that had
mhm.
traveled with Leticia to Arizona during that 3rd through the 6th when they said she was there. But then I have messages from Leticia to Eve that say that her husband was who flew with her to Arizona during that time. So there was a lot of telephone that was broken wire right in the very beginning, and you can really see how apparent that is in that time frame.
You know, that brings up something in my mind. If she had someone with her and, well, in Arizona, and she was the only one turned away, why didn't the person that was with her go in to visit?
Very good point.
Very good question. I don't think I ever, even though I knew she had said 2 different people had gone with her, I don't think I ever thought about the fact, because I mean, again, she claims that, I mean, we know that she knew where he was, where she thought he was. We know that, she put it out there that she couldn't see him due to the restraining order. So even if you believed you had some type of order that was never confirmed or never looked into, you're right. Why wouldn't those people then want to go in on your behalf? All of you traveled this far. You flew, allegedly, you flew on airplanes and plane tickets and all this other stuff to go and be there. But she also ends up saying later on in a live that her daughter went with her. The reason why her daughter couldn't currently go when she went in the mid-July was because her daughter was there and took all that time off of work, that her daughter was there with her. But we
Yeah.
know from Facebook posts that her daughter was working 8 or 9 or 10 days straight. Like, who went? Who actually went is my question.
Well, and I just came across, because I'm in that section of text messages too, just to confirm, I have text messages, well, Facebook Messenger messages, I should clarify, because somebody will pick apart that, from July 5th that are from Eve to the Vaughn's Angel chat group that they had. That Eve comes in there on July 5th and says, it's an effing S attempt. She tells the other girls that on the 5th. Eve knew because Leticia told her in
Right.
messages that are again posted. So again, they acted on the 6th like that was the first time that anybody had found out, but we know from various things that they already knew and had that information. I mean, there's family members that have talked about the high levels of K. We have admin posts. Like, there's so many things that just don't make sense, like don't jive. And like you said, there's been 3 different stories about 3 different people that went on that trip, which we can't confirm one way or another that Leticia ever went. Because on the 10th, she gets a refund request, right? So people were asking questions already on the 10th of, okay, hold on, you've gotten enough money to retain an attorney. You supposedly were there and denied, but you still haven't retained an attorney. You're still collecting funds. People were asking these questions and getting uncomfortable, because instead of taking the opportunity of saying, oh, hold on, I was just there, here's my plane ticket, because that would have shut the entire thing down. She could have done it without posting any private information. And I guarantee people would have been so much more confident in where their money was going. But instead, they opted not to. Oh, everybody else is on
Yeah.
mute. So I'm going to
Yeah,
continue.
that's okay. That's okay. I'm listening. I was listening to the line. So where are we at now? We're at the 10th where the first refund request comes in
Yep.
that we're aware of, at least, but that we can confirm that is the earliest refund request.
Yep. We can confirm 100%. It was mentioned that people had been requesting refunds previous on the 9th. Leticia talks about that in a Facebook messenger chat again. And also there was a public post made that people were asking questions and questioning her character because of her past and things at that point in time. So the 10th, first, we can confirm 100%. And no, it's not a GoFundMe request.
No, it was a Cash App request. It was declined at that point in time. We know, and I'm sure there's something that happened in between those dates, but we do know that the next known refund request was on July 14th.
Yep.
And those people, both of them have shared their stories, and both of them have said it's not about, oh my God, it's a donation. It's like a gift. You don't give somebody a sweater, and if they never wear it, you take it back. It's not about that. It's when you look at the actual facts and truths of this entire situation. The GoFundMe is where this started, right? GoFundMe, mind you, but it started on false information from the start. So people feel lied to, and people feel like they were deceived. And despite what some people may think, theft by deception is illegal. Just putting that out there. I'm no lawyer, so take it for what it's worth. But when you look at the facts of things, there were so many lies that were started from the very beginning, before there was even a full-on connection with any content creators, admins. Like, the lies started from the very beginning of that GoFundMe, and they continued. Even if you look at the the GoFundMe to this day, on July 13th, it says that she was denied access to him.
And that she was
Anybody
in
wonder
here.
why on the GoFundMe that her visit that she allegedly had, I think it was on the 18th or the 20th of July, which 5 days later, why wouldn't you post an update that she did see him, but to make it consistent, she has to keep seeing a lawyer? Like, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah. There was very selected updates that were given. And
Yeah.
there was no, I've said it multiple times. In the first, when I started asking questions and kind of seeing that things weren't as they seemed, I was very confused because I thought, oh, somebody might be using Leticia as, kind of a pawn here. And I thought potentially she was the one that was being victimized and all this stuff was happening behind her back. But then everything we've been shown and all of the facts show that Leticia was a very active participant in all of this communication. Like, she
You
was.
know what the turnaround was for me? Despite the fact that, I wanted to believe like these are good people, they have good hearts, and they just want to be a part of their son's life. Maybe it's guilt driven, maybe it's just, love for family driven. I don't really know them, right? So I
Right.
can't judge them. But what changed my mind out of, oh, these poor people, into these people are not victims, was when I seen the text messages that said that the first donor, Leticia, actually types out and says, "We're going to roast her ass." And the next day, that donor is then doxxed on Molly's live. Now, we already know, unless Molly has access to her Cash App or to her Messenger, she cannot get this person's information to be able to dox them, which means the information has to be shared with Molly to be able to even dox somebody. So when you start off with the intention of roasting someone's ass, that doesn't sound like, and literally, again, lately we've heard a lot about doxing, and we've heard a lot about it's not illegal. The intention behind doxing is what is illegal. And to me, there is a very clear intention behind, we are going to roast her ass.
Yep.
That's where the intention lied. And so you passed on that information for Molly to do her thing with, so that she can dox that person out loud. then that person starts to get all these people. Now that they've got your Facebook profile picture and your name, they can go into your Facebook Messenger and send you a bunch of messages. You should end your own life. What kind of person are you? You're a terrible person. How dare you? That changed my opinion of her, because what it showed me is it showed me you are not this victim. You're not the pawn. You're the actual chess master. You
Yeah.
are the one who is moving the pawns on the actual chessboard. And so I really struggle to this day. Now, this is in my opinion. I struggle to this day to hear, oh, what a victim. Or, we stand with her. She's being used by these people. Now, maybe she is. I'm not taking that back. I think she's in a situation where even if she wanted to, she can't get out of it safely because she's in too deep. So I will give her that much. However, she has put herself there too deeply.
And she had opportunities to remove herself
Oh, so many.
without any struggle many times in the beginning. Because
Yeah.
remember, we've got a whole time span here of July 11th when they first found out, and then June 11th, excuse me. June 11th to July 6th is when these big content creators got involved and shit really went south. So you've got 2 weeks, right? A little over 2 weeks time here where that is really telling, watching the pieces that were being maneuvered around.
Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people have reached out. They've shared messages where they did reach out. There's nothing in those messages that can even be read as a threat or an attack. It is saying, I can't imagine what you're going through. I would like to help you broker peace. I would like to help you on your journey, but please stop aligning with somebody who is bashing the family. Like they're making it worse for you.
Yep.
And so many people were saying the same thing. If you need a platform that makes zero money and you want to be able to tell your side of the story, or you want to be able to set the record straight, come, we will help you. Like, so many people have gone and said those things, but you still choose to stand behind it. So when I hear, when and I don't know the date, so I may be jumping ahead, so apologies. But when I hear the message that says, please go away, leave us in peace, you've aligned with people who bash us. You've aligned with people who are, who you're taking money from in exchange to allow them to impact my income, put my family, in a not safe place. Like, these are all the things you've done. And when I hear them say, how dare you? You're a
Yeah.
piece of shit. Like, what? Like, how do you not see it? I just don't. Even if I don't agree with somebody, with how somebody parents, how they live, how they keep their house clean, like, even if I don't agree with any of those things, what I don't agree with more is sending people to people's houses that have children inside. What I don't agree with more is calling CPS and acting as if I know exactly what's going on inside of that home based off of a 2-minute clip. I
Wait,
don't agree with, just so many different things.
you wouldn't invite a CPS worker to join your Facebook group?
Absolutely. The absolute and utter line that has been crossed. I only pray each day for three things. One, I pray for Vaughn first and foremost, because he is the most important thing in this entire mess to me. I pray for reconciliation, and I pray for, peace. That's peace all around. No matter who it involves, peace all around. And the last thing I pray is I pray that Dre hits every single person.
Did she just really cut out? Nanya? Blantessa, can you still hear her?
No, I can't hear her at all.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, there she is.
Sorry, I got a phone call and it took off the microphone. Sorry.
No, you're okay. I was like, why it doesn't always cut her off when she's giving these, like, because I cut you off last time. Okay, continue.
Sorry. I just was saying my last one is I pray that Dre has the most amazing legal team that comes in and sues every single person who has worked to defame her, worked to take her children away, worked to take her husband away, made like inflammatory claims against her as if they knew her personally, made claims about what was happening inside of her home based off of small clips. I mean, literally talk about the absolute chaos of social media. I pray that she comes hard on the law for them. I don't want anybody to lose incomes. However, I pray that they never, ever are allowed to do this to a family again. I've recently been watching the Cash, Gurner stuff that's going on and learning about the task force that they're working with and just a little bit about their situation. And I have there's like 3 rabbit holes that I'm down right now. But as I listen to the videos about, this beautiful young little tiny boy, I can't even imagine the grief that family is going through. But more so, I just can't even imagine the exploitation of that grief and how somebody sleeps at night knowing that they make money off of somebody else's embarrassments, shame, acts, mistakes, guilty, we all make mistakes. We're not perfect people.
Can you imagine though? Just think for 1 second, like going back and yes, they were very public about their lives, but then having, and I've had to admit fault, but then having social media pull apart every single inch and only pick the worst, potentially twisted moments like that they can twist into their narrative, because it's not been about, like, there has been things unraveling, and yeah, you can have your opinions here and there, but that's not what they did. They took little clips that specifically targeted a certain narrative.
Yep.
And kept pushing those over and over and over, hour after hour after hour after
And they
hour.
still do to this day.
And nobody's taken into account that their kids are going to have social media. They might already. This is something that someday they're going to have to see. We've seen.
Well, and people will say kids shouldn't have social media. But here's the thing. Eventually, they're going to be adults who do have social media, who may be looking one day on, a YouTube video, and the next video that plays is a video like, about their parents. Like, there's just no consideration for anybody in this situation. There's no consideration. There was never any empathy to start with. There was never any, what if I was in that person's shoes? And I'm not saying, in any of these situations that I'm kind of been researching right now, I'm not going to say that there is not some areas where people did not fail in specific areas. Maybe they did. But why should their failures be exploited like hell?
Hold on, though. We're all humans. Who doesn't fail? Like,
right.
Honestly, I look at some of the stuff that's been said and picked apart, and I can't even imagine.
I mean, how hard and I'm not trying to be funny, and I don't even want to get into the drama of it, so I'll probably go, this will be my last thing I say about it. But how hard would it be to pick apart a Molly video and see that she spends so many hours on social media that should be spent with her kid? How many games do we hear him come home from a basketball game, with hashtag where's Walter, and here she is just on live talking to her internet friends that paid for her friendship. Like, how you could easily turn that into something if you wanted to, if you had those intentions. But they won't, and they don't.
That's been the problem too. And this is already over 2 hours right now. And we're what, at the 10th of,
I think 11th? We're at the 11th. Yeah.
11th of June. And so we're going to have to do a part 2, because nobody's going to want to sit here for multiple, or we might even have to get to a part 3, because this is where, social media has already had an impact in this story at this point in time. Choices were being made. but there is so much more. Like, you know, you've heard 2 hours worth of things that happened in just days, a month.
Yeah.
A month. We went from June 11th when the family found out. I mean, yes, we started at May 23rd, but really the main dates were June 11th to July 11th is this month. And we only talked about big pieces, not all the little things. There's just been a lot.
I know one of the things we did point out today, Tess and I were talking about earlier when we were talking about some of the different situations that we're looking at right now. And you know, we like to sensationalize a lot of things, but when you get down to the heart of things, it's, you know, a lot of these situations that we're seeing right now, you see mental health is a big part of it. You see some of the other cases, not this particular one, but some of the other cases, you see that, you know, addiction is a part of it. In some of the other cases, as well as this one, you see the exploitation is a part of it. You know, you see you see that there is a very common denominator. And Blunt Test, you may want to touch on it more, but until we really start to have those conversations, I feel like these situations will actually continue to go and go and go and go.
Absolutely. I don't do the drama. I don't do the social media ridiculous, theatrics and all of that. My thing is advocacy, awareness, prevention. We need to speak in very blunt terms, very to the point, nothing candy coated, and just get the word out and educate. Mental illness, that S word awareness, prevention. Just there's so many things that these platforms can be used for, but
Yeah.
it seems to always go to drama.
And that's something we've talked about a lot too, is like how to segue into, you know, important conversations that are surrounding this story, but yet affect all of these other stories, mental health being one of them. That is a topic that we're all pretty passionate about and discuss a lot, you know, and there's so many themes within these stories that carry over from story to story to story that hopefully, you know, we can use this platform and others, you know, for good in trying to help in some way, because at the end of the day, this story does make you feel really helpless and hopeless at
Mhm.
times, because there's nothing we can do to fix it. Nobody will take our advice, and nobody will just try to mend the fences with the family. That's first and foremost my wish, that they could reconcile in some way, shape, or form for peace for all of them and take this off of social media, because it's not doing any of them any good at this point in time. And then, you know, how can we take this experience and do something positive with it in the future? You know, same for them, because you still have so many people at the end of the day that are impacted by this and will be for the rest of their lives.
And
Agreed.
I just want to say, no one needed to step in for Vaughn and be his voice. Vaughn has a voice. There are plenty of videos out there. There is plenty of recordings of him speaking. Plenty of just you can see and you can hear his words and you can feel his emotions. And if you really take the time to listen to him and to listen to his words, we wouldn't be here today.
Shout out
Right.
to Missing Puzzle Pieces again. If you have not watched their videos, please go watch their videos. They show the side that people need to see.
Yeah, I agree.
Anything else you guys want to add before we end this one? Again, you guys, this will be a multi-part. Granted, we will have some time in between because we all have crazy busy lives. The Tessas are a mess, okay? Well, I'm going to say that for all of us, but this Tessa is always a mess. Everybody, and when I tell people, like, I really don't keep up, I can't keep up on a lot of this stuff. Like, I'm trying to even follow some of these other cases, and I'm like, wait, what's going on? It's so hard. There's so much happening.
Yeah, Tess and I, before this started, I was listening to some 911 calls that got released today for a different case. And I'm like, oh man, I got to go and do the live real quick. I'm going to have to come back to them and we'll have to discuss them later.
I'm excited. Oh, Sorry, I got a frog in my throat all of a sudden. I'm excited to listen to those two because that case has my mind spinning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, all of the cases Tessa has brought me, because 99% of them, granted, we all came from different worlds. Like, none of us knew each other. We know each other by this, what you guys are seeing. This is how we interact. But I didn't know any of this world existed. I knew about true crime, of course, but I didn't know about these specific cases. And the ones she's brought me are earth shattering and heartbreaking. Like, so hard to even look at and listen to. But with that said, anybody have anything you guys want to add before we close it out?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you guys once again for giving me your time, and
Don't forget Tessa's gang gang.
gang gang.
I want to give a thank you and a big shout out to everyone that participates in the live chat and how respectful everyone is.
Oh, yeah.
I just think like they're the best. I love seeing everybody communicate with each other and interact.
We have a really good group over here too that is not so focused. Like, when I came back after being gone this weekend, and I went right back into, there had been so much drama over the weekend. And granted, yes, I fall down that hole sometimes. It's hard not to. But when I came back and we hit with that video of just like, this is the facts, let's get back into it. The reception that people had of thank you for, pointing out the facts. These are the things that matter. And that, I really appreciate that, because so many of you guys are focused on the facts and you want to know because you want to help educate others. And that means a ton. You guys are doing a lot.
Can I say before you end the video that if you made it this long through the video, thank you so much for watching. However, because Contessa really struggles with saying it, please subscribe to the page or hit the thumbs up button.
I do have a hard time saying that. Like, I'm just not a good self-promoter at all. Obviously, I sing and it's horrible, you guys. Like, that's career ending, and I do it.
Oh, I
every
love the
day.
singing in the videos. I like to get to that part.
Speaking of which, tomorrow's Friday Fright. I got you guys a new song, and this one's a little interesting, so it'll be fun. But okay, with that said, well, and by the way, we're a mafia or a mob, not a gang. So I don't know what the Tessas. I don't even know what a mob does.
I don't either. I'm not very familiar. I'm gonna have to get familiar with that.
We have to get the lingo of that, like,
yeah,
somehow. Okay. Well, with that said, Contessa and the Tessas, Tessa and fuck Tessa, over and out. And then